the passenger vehicle wholesales reached around 4.3 million units. Turnover reached about 6.73 lakh crores. The top line for the passenger vehicle segment is still very impressive. As investors, what is the final takeaway? Everyone says the Indian auto industry is booming. Others say the party is over. Which one is true? In today's video, we will deep dive into the auto and auto sector. So by the end of the video, you yourself can decide if it is actually a boom or not. Today, we will cover various topics in the video, ranging from the differences in the auto industry back then and now. We will deep dive into the different auto segments. We will try to understand where the boom is happening in the industry. Actually, we will look at the key indicators, which will give us cues on what might next happen in the industry. And the most important, which is for all of us as investors, what is the final takeaway? Let's get into it. But before that, we would like you to look at our innovation portfolio. The core around this portfolio is naturally leaning towards exposure into electrification, software-defined vehicles, and localization, where auto and auto ancillaries are the clear beneficiaries. Watchlisted now to track this particular theme. Now let's try to understand how the industry was before, say, last year, and how is it right now. Let's try to see the numbers. Where does the industry stand today? So this is more like a comparison. So financial year 25 closed very strong for the industry. The passenger vehicle wholesales reached around 4.3 million units. The two-wheelers climbed back towards the 19.6 million unit after years of weakness. The three-wheelers kept recovering while electric models were the fastest moving. Commercial vehicles were steady, which is what you would expect, right? When you're nearly at the top of a cycle, I would say. But the Q1 of FY26 told a different story for passenger vehicles. June dealer dispatches slipped to an 18-month low. Exports, however, hit high records. In the same window, this helped the factory owners give some cushion, right? So the exports were the cushioning to the factory owners in essence. So now we are seeing a rotation in terms of sales. The components industry quietly posted another year record. Turnover reached about 6.73 lakh crores, nearly US $80.2 billion, which is almost doubling in 5 years, right? So it's been great. Now let's look at each of these segments in depth as well. So now when you look at the passenger vehicle segment, this is a very, sort of big and loud segment. It's slowing at the edges in essence, if you would see. But why is it, right? We'll try to understand that. Do not forget, the top line for the passenger vehicle segment is still very impressive, but the mix is doing the heavy lifting. Utility vehicles, which are SUVs and MPVs, now form roughly 2/3 of the sales. Entry-level hatchbacks remain under pressure because affordability is very tight in that particular segment. When buyers upgrade, they prefer space, safety, and features, so SUVs keep their share always high. Hybrids and CNGs are the two clearest share winners. Four-wheeler EVs are growing, but from a very small base. Low single-digit penetration, and infrastructure is still not where the mass buyer would want it to be. The next important thing is the policy. So two policy lines really matter in the near term. First, the GST cut on small cars from 28 to 18% improves entry-level affordability going into the festive season. Second, the new EV manufacturing framework allows limited imports at 15% duty for players that commit to local investment and localization milestones. That could bring premium EV tech in and force faster local building in terms of the tech part in the EV space. So what's the catch here? In the short run, PVs are not firing in all cylinders. The top end is stable, exports are healthy, but the entry segment needs the GST tailwind, stable fuel prices, and steady financing to build the momentum gain. Now, the next segment is the two-wheeler segment. This is a segment that's been healing. It's not too flashy as well, but the two-wheelers are still below the pre-pandemic peaks. The recovery looks more durable than it did a year ago, so that's good news. Rural demand is improving with the monsoon and farm cash flows increasing. The replacement cycle is kicking in. Financing is readily available and fuel prices have been predictable. The forecast for financial year 26 point to mid-single digit to high single digit growth. Electrification in two-wheelers is the largest EV used case in India. Yes, electrification in two-wheelers. Growth is normalizing as subsidies taper and prices reset, but the ICE leaders, the ICE engine leaders, are still rolling out EV offerings and hybrids to keep their customer base. The three-wheeler segment is the fastest EV shift. If you want to see where EV work right now, it is the three-wheeler space. Electric three-wheelers clocked roughly 90% growth in FY25. By mid-2025, E3-wheelers share sat around the low 60s within the three-wheeler market, which is substantial. Why is this segment moving faster? Use cases are very simple. Fixed routes, depot chargings, predictable loads, fleet owners who care about per kilometer cost than anything else. When the economics click, the adoption tends to follow. The next segment is the commercial vehicle segment. It is a late cycle calm kind of segment where the commercial vehicles were broadly flat in FY25 at around 0.96 million units. That's typical late cycle behavior after a multi-year down driven by roads, mining and infrastructure. The electrification story here is mostly in buses, I would say. Tenders can swing market share quarter to quarter, but you can feel the direction. City routes, depot charging and policy support will keep the buses in focus. Now let's look at the components part of the industry. This is the quiet engine cycle, and as we were discussing, it's been doing great, right? This is the part that people mostly overlook, but it's a very important part. The component industry is in a structural upcycle, I would say. Turnover at record levels, 5-year CAGR nearly 14%, exports up 18% in FY25, trade in surplus for the second year running. So what's driving it? First, content per vehicle keeps rising. Even as some sub-segments wobble month to month, the value packed into each vehicle keeps rising, the features as in. That means suppliers grow on content even when units are flat, add export orders that lock in for years, and the cycle becomes less about last month's registrations and more about booked programs, local platforms, and safety tech regulations that keep stepping up every year. You can see it in hybrids, in CNG, both push new systems into cars that weren't there 5 years ago. You can see it in Bharat NACP and more models. The chassis 5-year rating, they keep chasing the 5-star ratings. You see it in the wiring harness space, the vision systems, the braking, the thermals, and the power electronics. The second reason is global sourcing is shifting. Indian ancillaries are winning billion-dollar EV export deals. You can see it in the order books, right? Sona Comstar has a large share of its book tied to EVs and is expanding in East Asia to diversify. Samvardhan Motherson has been on an acquisition spree across wiring, vision systems and modules. Bharat Forge added an axle unit through a July 25 deal, strengthening drivetrain tech and the relationships, right? The number 3 is policy reinforces that flies the wheel. PLI for auto directs incentives to advanced tech, battery electric, fuel cells, lightweight materials, sensors and more. Rates can run in the low teens to high teens for OEMs and the mid-single digits to low teens for components. With the bonus for BEV parts, I think this industry is going to sort of go the milestone because of the policy reinforcements. The PLI ACC seeds multi-GWH cell capacity with names like Exide Energy and Amar Raja in the latest tranche. Together, these programs de-risk capex and reward localization. These are risks, right? The US tariff narrative could complicate exports for some lines. Industry groups flag that a tough scenario could shave mid-teens percentage of US shipments. The mitigation is diversification. More Asia, steady Europe and product mixes, less exposed to any single market is the way forward for the component industry. So now, what should we watch next? You should also keep an eye on the following 12 months that might come. Follow the monthly mix in passenger vehicles, the share of SUVs, UVs, the penetration of hybrids, CNG, and retail inventory. Keep an eye on PV exports. They are acting like a pressure valve when domestic demand dips. In two-wheelers, watch rural sales, entry-level financing. Those two alone tell you most of the story. In three-wheelers, e-share staying above 60% would confirm the electric shift has been stuck to this particular segment. On the supply side, track the PLI and ACC milestones, who's disclosing wins, who's meeting localization thresholds, and when disbursements hit. Watch capex announcement from top ancillaries in wiring, electronics, forging, structures and thermal systems. They tend to move ahead of the demand trends. And keep an eye on the tariff conversation for exports. If Asia's share of India's component shipments keeps rising, that's healthy diversification for us. The takeaway for viewers deciding whether the opportunity is real or not. So this is the final takeaway for investors like us, right? If you're trying to understand where the momentum is, think in layers. Layer 1 is demand. Two-wheelers, CNG and hybrids in a passenger vehicles, and electric three-wheelers is where the demand layer lies. Layer 2 is the content, which is the safety, electronics, software, powered electronics, wiring, thermal. This rises per car regardless of the cycles. And the third layer is the exports and localization, multi-year programs, better value add, policy support, and the rewards advanced tech that is built being in India. Right? When those three line up, which is all these three layers, you get the kind of results the component industry is posting right now. That's why the sector can keep growing. Even one headline number softens for a quarter. Put simply, the auto value chain is strong, the boom is real, but it sits more in the composition than the headline. If you focus on the auto parts of the chain that are truly gaining share, components, CNG, hybrids, E3 wheelers, export ready programs, you're looking at the part of India's auto story that's actually accelerating. Don't forget, our innovation portfolio is designed to front run structural changes. It emphasizes disruptive technology led trends and the supply chain shifts, right? Auto part components and the ancillaries sit at the crossroads of the electrification, software connected mobility, materials and lightweighting are make in India, right? So this is what we have to look at when it comes to the innovation portfolio. We would like to end this video. I hope it was a fruitful video. You got the content that you were looking for. Now you have some clarity in terms of where the money should flow. Do not forget to like, subscribe and comment on this video. If you do like this video, do let us know the other topics in comments that you would like us to cover. Happy investing and thank you for watching the video.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.